Hey guys, welcome back. Today's gonna be a quick video, kind of like a Monday motivation type deal, where I talk to you about the book I've been reading. It's called The Obstacle is the Way. It was written by Ryan Holiday. And basically this book challenges us to see our obstacles not as roadblocks, but really as opportunities. So without further ado, let's dig in. It doesn't really matter who you are or where you're from, what socioeconomic status you belong to. You're gonna have some kind of obstacle or problem, something that you really didn't want to happen or didn't account for, that you don't appreciate, but still exists. What do you do? What do you do when things happen in your life that you'd really not prefer? Regardless of who you are or where you are, you're gonna have obstacles. They have this sneaky way of always finding us. They try to kick us down, keep us down if they can, or if we really allow them to. But this book challenges us to see obstacles in a new way. Obstacles as opportunities. Opportunities to test ourselves, try new things, and ultimately also to triumph over them. The first part of the book talks about our perception, and so that is what I'll be focusing on in this video. So I'm going to begin by sharing a story from the book. It is an old Zen story about a king who's kind of upset that all the people in his kingdom had gotten soft and entitled, and so he wanted to teach them a lesson. In order to do this, he got a huge boulder and he placed it in the middle of a road to the entrance of the city. And he hid behind a bush to observe how different people would respond to this boulder or obstacle, right? So some people saw the boulder and just said, forget it, and just turned right around. Other people saw the boulder and they kind of half-heartedly attempted to move it, pushed it a little, kicked it a little, tapped it with a stick. But then finally there was this old peasant man, or was it just a peasant? I can't recall exactly. Anyway, there's a peasant that approached the boulder and was really trying to move it. He was pushing with all his might, and finally he thought, what if I made a lever? So then he got a huge branch from a tree and kind of just wedged it on out of there. Lo and behold, beneath that huge rock, beneath that obstacle, was a treasure. There's a purse of gold coins and a note from the king, which said, "The obstacle in the path becomes the path. Never forget, within every obstacle is an opportunity to improve our condition." What are your obstacles? Is it your size, your gender, your race, finances, or the lack thereof? Is it even beyond you, maybe policies that are restricting you or obligations that are holding you? What I liked about the book was that it also brought in the fact that sometimes it can be the total opposite. Like sometimes we think of obstacles as the things that we're lacking. Like we don't have enough money or connections or whatever. But really it can also be the complete opposite. Abundance can be an obstacle too, where it just causes us to be lazy and prevents innovation. Like think about the movie WALL-E. If you haven't seen it, spoiler alert. But remember when he finally got to that spaceship and it was supposed to be basically like this perfect place, but what we found was really a very tainted idea of what perfection is. So we went up and we saw people who were just caught up in pleasures. They didn't even want to walk. They were all morbidly obese, being carried wherever they wanted, just watching TV and being fed constantly. They didn't lift a finger and they didn't even care for their children. I think the robots were the ones who were raising them. Abundance can also be an obstacle. So what are your obstacles? Take a second to think about it. There will always be obstacles. Where does perception come into play? To perceive something is to understand it and to add meaning to it. Life isn't fair. We all know this, right? Bad things happen to good people. Good things happen to bad people. Children are taken advantage of. Natural disasters wipe out entire communities. People are starving. There's Texas, there's Florida. Life isn't fair. But how we perceive these problems will either empower us or empower the obstacles. It will either empower us to change these situations or leave us in chains. Perception is really the root of your power. The book reminds us that when obstacles present, we should try to remain objective, to control our emotions, to kind of see the good in the situation, stay in the present, and also focus on the things that you actually have control over. In every situation, there are options. It might not be the one that is most ideal, but you still have options and opportunities. You are not powerless. You might not have the most booming voice in the room to be heard, but you still have a voice. I'd like to actually share a quote from the book. It's on page 25 for anyone who actually has the book. It says, "When we aim high, pressure and stress obligingly come along for the ride." Basically, obstacles, problems are like air. They're just gonna be there. So what are you gonna do? Steady your nerves and control your emotions. And I understand it's easier said than done. Let me share this quote from Publius Cyrus. I'm sure I'm butchering his name, but he was actually quoted in the book as well. "Would you have a great empire? Rule over yourself." Meaning we have to be disciplined to rule over ourselves, to rule over our emotions, our fears, our panic response. Sometimes we are way too happy to be panicking because you know what? In a weird way, that's our comfort area. We know really well how to panic. But when we panic, we are literally blinding ourselves to the possibilities. I want to share a story with you guys. It's actually about my youngest brother, Jordan. It was when he was much younger, like maybe 6 or so. He had a fear of dogs. I don't know if he still does, but it was really bad when he was young. It didn't matter the dog, the breed, the size, he just wasn't a dog person. So one day we were walking along the street away from our apartment and someone was coming in the opposite direction. What did Jordan do? He not only went to the opposite side of me, but almost ran directly into the road, where if I hadn't grabbed him, he would have most assuredly, in the busy streets of New York City, been hit. His panic response had blinded him. He couldn't see past the dog. He could have relied on me, jumped on my back, or just simply moved over to the other side of me. But when you panic, when you allow your emotions to just run wild, you usually only harm yourself and make the situation appear even worse than it actually is. It all boils down to how we perceive our problems, our obstacles. Recording this video was my obstacle. My husband is not here. I'm trying to figure out how to use the camera all by myself, how to focus things, and I'm just gonna let you guys know, in various sections, I've had to delete them because they weren't focused, the lighting was off, etc., etc. And honestly, it's like 8 o'clock. I wanted this video to be done earlier so I could edit it and then have it out at a decent time on Monday for Motivation Monday. So this video, recording this video, was my personal obstacle, but if I can do it and get it to you, you can do anything. I don't want to oversimplify your obstacles though. I understand that there are far greater things happening in the world right now. But in the end, I'm hoping that instead of choosing worrying, instead of choosing, our reactionary emotions and instinct and panic because it's convenient and it's familiar, I'm encouraging you to choose introspection, to choose alertness and wisdom and judgment. Whatever you're gonna feed is whatever is gonna grow and eventually triumph. Is it your obstacle or is it yourself? If we believed in ourselves as much as we did our problems, where would we be? Perception is about realizing that the worst thing to happen is never the thing that actually happened. The worst thing to happen would be if you were to just lose sight, lose hope, lose your head, lose your heart, and just give up. That would be the worst thing. Perception is about adding meaning to that obstacle so you can get through it, not around it, and not avoiding it either, because in avoiding these obstacles, they're not just gonna spontaneously resolve. They're not gonna be like, oh, well, she's avoiding us, let's just leave her alone. That's not how the real world works, right? And I know sometimes it hurts and sometimes it's hard and it's not always fair and it's not always because of your own decisions. I know for myself, I've had a lot of obstacles in my life and I haven't even shared most of them with you guys. In time, I will. If I were to see each of these obstacles as insurmountable or as my Nexus event for any low-key fans out there, I never would have made it to where I am today. And I am extremely grateful. And I've learned a lot from those obstacles. That's really it for part 1, guys. Thank you so much for sticking around. In part 2, we'll be speaking about action. So we'll be moving from how we see things to then how we go about doing things. If you're new here, my name is Khadija. I'm a doctor in real life, and I hope that here on YouTube I will be a resource for motivation, information, and even entertainment. Please subscribe, share this video, and stick around for next week, where I hope to share part 2 of The Obstacle's the Way, where we'll focus, as I said, not on perception anymore, but on action. And if you guys would, try to maybe purchase the book yourself to see kind of what I'm talking about. Bye!